Is the Sony 55-210mm OSS lens still worth it in 2025? Let me tell you why this underrated gem deserves a spot in your camera bag. The OSS lens originally was released as part of the Sony E-mount lineup for the APS-C cameras. It's a budget-friendly telephoto lens. Despite its age, it still holds up remarkably well. The lightweight portability of the lens, only weighing 345 grams, makes it really portable for everyday use, especially for my street photography. I find that I use it quite often. The great benefit of having a telephoto lens like this is that it has an optical steady state. So if I'm using a handheld camera, it pretty much keeps the image stabilized, and that's really beneficial, especially when I'm using a lower shutter speed. The OSS is especially useful when I'm using my handheld camera instead of my tripod. So if I have this particularly low shutter speed, it pretty much picks it up quite fast. Another benefit is that it covers a versatile focal range from 55mm to 210mm. If you don't understand what that means, is that it can zoom in pretty far or zoom out, so you can get a whole portrait or whole subject in frame. One of the reasons why I think you should pick it up in 2025 though is that it's incredibly affordable at this time. A second-hand camera could go around for $150 to maybe $200. But even though it's quite cheap, the image is still incredibly sharp, having great contrast, especially in the mid focal range. But I tend to use it a lot for my portrait photos. I'll tend to use it more than my Sigma 30mm lens because I prefer the natural 4.5 aperture that it has, and I think it delivers a better quality than the Sigma. But one of the downsides to this lens is that because of the smaller maximum focal range you can get, from it being 4.5 to 6.3, it means that it's not great in low light situations unless you have your own lighting source or if you want to increase the ISO of your camera. But then you'll have to deal with noise. So that's honestly, you have to weigh the pros and cons for that. But if you're outside and you want to take more versatile photos, I think this otherwise would be a great lens. One of the best benefits of the lens is that it's really beginner friendly. It works well with the Sony lineup of the A6000 lines. If you don't know what that means, the Sony released a bunch of cameras like the A6400, which I personally use, to the A6700, so on. But since it's an E-mount, it will work with pretty much all Sony lenses that have E-mount compatibility. I have to specify that very much. If you buy a Canon and it doesn't have the proper mount, it will be useless. So I've shown you a couple of photos here and there just to show the capabilities of the camera, but here are some of the photos I took with the camera. As you can see, I think it turned out pretty well, especially when this is my earlier time testing out the lens. And here are some of my early beginner shots when I first started photography. This was one of the first lenses I picked up, and I think because I was a beginner when I started using it, I can relatively say for certain that it's very, very beginner friendly and it will give you a grasp of the hobby pretty quickly. Bottom line is that even though this lens isn't the flashiest in 2025, I think it's still an excellent choice, especially for beginners. It's versatile, it's portable, and it's of course affordable. Especially with inflation at this time, given the fact that you can get one for $150 and has great capabilities, I think you'd be quite foolish not to take it. If you've ever used the Sony 55-210mm lens in 2025 and you have some thoughts, why don't you share them below? Maybe you disagree with my opinion, maybe you agree with it, maybe you want me to recommend other lenses. Well, if you want to share your thoughts with me, comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, I really appreciate it.